Hello
We
and welcome to Boomer 11. Once again, we're here covering the Football World Cup, the FIFA World Cup, which is just a few more days to go before the World Cup begins. But today we're going to be covering Spain national team, a team that has won one World Cup in the golden generations of Iniesta and David Villa and so many of these players. But now this team has only two players left from that generation, right? And a lot of those players, even Sergio Ramos, I mean, has now been is missing out on this squad. But a lot of fresh faces out here, but players who have got it in them definitely to make go ahead and maybe go and have a stake on the title itself. But before we begin, we talk about Boomer 11, the fantasy app, risk-free fantasy app that is available on Apple App Store and Google Play. I have with me Abel. How far do you think Spain has their Spain's chances are when it comes to this year's World Cup?
um uh, firstly, a pleasure to be on the show once again and to be talking about football. Yeah, to be honest, Spain's always an exciting side, right? They've brought in, they always try to bring in a good blend. Over the last 8 years since 2010 World Cup to 2018 World Cup, they did not have the best time. There was a period in which they dominated world football: Euro 2008, World Cup 2010, then Euro 2012 once again. But from there on, when that transition started happening, that's when they started falling apart. And 2014, a group stage exit, which was quite a shocker for them. 2018, knocked out by the host in the round of 16. And now, very young squad, a lot of fresh faces, a very controversial squad, which has been named by Luis Enrique. As you all know, Luis Enrique is a very rigid manager, and he believes in philosophy. He believes in persisting with a certain bunch of players who has already played for the national team. This team has done well over the last couple of years, especially if you look at the Nations League success they've had. They went on to play the Nations League final, Euro semi-final, once again in the Nations League semi-final once again. So this team has been on a roll. And remember, uh, there are a lot of exclusions from the team, which has already caught a lot of eyeballs rather than the inclusion. So a very controversial squad to start off with. I can say only time will tell how far this team can go deep into the tournament, because still people are very unsure of the look at the names, right, who are there in the squad. A lot of names haven't even featured in starting 11 in most of their club teams through the season. So that's where Spanish media is are questioning Luis Enrique. One of the reasons why Luis Enrique started a Twitch channel, because today is started a Twitch channel saying that I am going to answer all your questions. I want to connect with fans because I don't believe, please don't believe in media. So there is a lot of things happening around the Spanish national team, but it's at least better than the last time. Because last time, what happened was 2 days prior to the World Cup, their coach just left and went to Real Madrid. So he couldn't be the coach of the Spanish national team, and hence they had to get a new coach just 2 days before the World Cup. So again, change in system, change in players, it just did not go their way. But at least this time there's a system which is put in place. There's a bunch of players who are given the trust under Luis Enrique to go play it. That's why this team is pretty exciting. But at the same time, um, I'm very unsure how far they'll go.
Yeah, I mean, it remains to be seen. But overall, I think let's just, I mean, if you look at overall, I mean, how much do you think, and I mean, Luis Enrique has, I mean, how much can you give credit to him? Because he's, again, probably looking at a turnaround of the Spanish national team under his managership. I mean, he has probably brought in players according to the system that he plays, as you would put it, rather, not looking at the star level of players or players of how of a particular status, but rather looking at players who would do well in a system. Is that the reason why you think some players are missing out?
Yes, I absolutely agree with you. Because of the factor that system is something which Luis Enrique is big up on, right? Especially when it comes to Luis Enrique, if you look in Euro 2022 or 2021, where he wanted to play a certain system. Hence, he brought in a goalkeeper who fits into that system. He brought a backline who fits into that system, and even midfielders are players of the system. But another factor which you need to consider is he is he going away from form, and is he just big up on system? Because another thing is, when you look away from form, right, form is something which you can't buy. Form is something which is very relevant at that stage, and especially leading into a World Cup, form is something which you need in a team, and form is something which you need in certain players. That's where I think that's the biggest criticism for Luis Enrique. And I myself will criticize Luis Enrique for that, because look at the way in which he has ignored some of the stars, right? The way in which he's ignored someone like Canales, who's doing great. And the way he has gone with Sergio Busquets, maybe there are possibilities that he might not even pick up a Rodri for that starting 11, which we will discuss further going in the live. So that's something which Luis Enrique is super rigid about, and it could possibly lead to backfall, or to its downfall as well. That, as I mentioned, with this team, only time can tell how far they can go into this tournament. Because see, there are two things about Spanish national team. Always, the one thing which they've always believed is the system and philosophy. They're always proud of that culture of the kind of football they want to play. And under Luis Enrique, you are saying this team have being very good in terms of their pressing football, playing a high line of defense. Not just that, the counter pressing has been one of the best in the world under Luis Enrique. You saw it in Euros where they were trying to go at the teams, maintain a possession release football. Um, more often than not, they're playing vertical passes as well, and the distribution skills to the final third is top notch out there. It starts all from goalkeeper. Hence, you're seeing a Unai Simon preferred over David De Gea. And a lot of people will be thinking, why is the David De Gea not there? Because he's one of the best Spanish keepers out there in the world. But is he good on the ball? No, not really. We did discuss about it even yesterday's live, during the Ronaldo's live, how David De Gea is not really even fitting into Ten Hag's system. But then he's got no option but other than to go with David De Gea, because he's the best option out there for United. But when it comes to Unai Simon, has done a decent job, but there have been times where he's made some costly mistakes as well. One thing which comes into my mind with Unai Simon is the mistake which he made against Croatia in that um,
Yeah.
round of 16 game, where he really messed it up. It was a goalkeeping blunder. So these are things which Unai Simon personally wouldn't want to have. And remember, Unai Simon in that very game also and made some important saves. So
Hmm.
here I totally think Unai Simon is a risk, but at the same time, someone who fits into Luis Enrique's system. You can't blame Luis Enrique. Look at the way how he's transitioned this team, right? 2018, nobody gave them a chance. I mean, they were out kicked out by Russia, and it just looked like Spanish football is down doldrums once again. After that, to pick a team, to believe in certain youngsters, to bring in, he's got two of the finest young midfielders out there, both play for the same team. Pedri and Gavi out there in the center midfield. The creativity levels are going to be right up there. But another factor is, alongside Pedri and Gavi, who are you going to deploy? Do you have a
Yeah.
right striker to actually finish it? He has gone for an Alvaro Morata, and he's come under the scanner time and time again. So here is where Luis Enrique comes into scanner. It's a mix. I would say when I saw Spanish team, it was a mixed reaction for me. I didn't go like wow. At the same time, I'm like, oh man, what kind of team is this? It was mixed. It was totally mixed for me. I had my own biases as well in terms of not seeing some of my players which I like. Especially Canales, I've been following him very closely, and I was like, how on earth is this guy not there? And when it comes to Luis Enrique's biases, it's pretty seen. I have no idea how is Carlos Soler making into this team time and time again when he's barely getting 5 minutes on the pitch for his club team. And Sarabia doesn't even start for PSD, but he finds his name on the Spanish team every time. I don't even know which position is he even going to play. So these are things that I'm very where I personally believe Luis Enrique gets a lot of criticism, and I also criticize him for the same reason.
I mean, let's just look at the squad once a little bit more carefully, right? We have let's have the goalkeepers. You already talked about Unai Simeon, who's probably going to be starting as well. Aside from him, you have David Raya and Robert Sanchez. Do you think the goalkeepers? I mean, do you think the three goalkeepers are probably the best choice he had? Also considering the system as we spoke about.
No, I would say not the best choice, because there was a Kepa,
Yeah.
a possible option he could have gone for. He's very good at the ball. One of the reasons why Graham Potter has preferred Kepa as well, part of his system, right? You know, Forlan Mendy for not Mendy, not Forlan Mendy, Edouard Mendy for Chelsea hasn't been best on the ball. You've seen that he's been exposed a lot of times, especially when it comes to his ball playing ability. We've got Sanju asking something as well. I'll just take his question. Is Digaya distribution main reason? Exactly, Sanju. Digaya's distribution is one of the main reason why he's been dropped out of the squad. And look at Lucho's system. He always wanted a keeper who's good on distribution. From Barcelona's days, Ter Stegen and Claudio Bravo are were really good distributing goalkeepers. If you look at their shows, if you look at their shot stopping skills, they're not the best at the back. But when it comes to their distribution skill, they are top notch. So one of the reasons why he's gone for Raya is also that he's good on the ball. But very surprised why he's not gone for Kepa. I know he's injured, but he would have been fit by now for sure. So pretty surprised that he's gone for Raya and not including Kepa. If something happens to Unai Simon, then you have a issue. Then you don't have a keeper who's there, who's gonna be like competing in a world stage, who's gonna be up against some of the top teams who can maybe you do not know these keepers. Some of the one of them can have a very good day and might make your team look very good, or maybe it could be on a penalty shootouts. But that's where I really thought, even in a penalty, if you're going in a penalty shootout kind of a stage in a knockout, you need a Kepa, because Kepa's record in penalty shootouts is crazy good. And remember, Kepa is a leader in himself. I've always felt this lad is the next leader of Chelsea. The way he's commands, the way he's got leadership skills in the back, this guy's got a role in the team, right? I remember how Kepa denied Sari to be taking him off. So from that day, this guy really commands certain things. This guy really means that he wants to have an imposing figure on the pitch. Hence, I believe he's missed a trick in not going for Kepa. I know he would have. There was certainly a cloud over his fitness, but he would have definitely been fit by the start of the World Cup. That's where I really think that's a huge mistake there.
Yeah, I mean, fair enough, because Kepa has done a very good job for Chelsea. You've seen his career sort of revive under Graham Potter here at Chelsea, and now he's again become the number one goalkeeper for Chelsea. But now let's look at the defense right here, Abel. There are too many names for me to just read aloud, but there are quite a few defenders, you would say. And what do you think is going to be the players that are going to feature in the 11? As you say that, can you also maybe we'll produce a graph as well on the screen as we go ahead with it.
Yeah, we will. But yeah, to be very honest, to be talking about the defensive acumen, which it's the same, right? But as we were talking about distribution skills, what Louis Enrique prefers is also goal playing defenders, especially centre backs. He doesn't believe in stoppers. He believes in ballers. He believes in footballers, and especially centre backs who can progress the ball up front, who can have a very good connect with the center midfielders, and from there on to proceed. And also that's where he looks at his right backs as well. Right backs who can push forward, who can be more involved in the game. Likes of Carvajal is there, likes of even Jordi Alba, who really pushes forward and links up play with your wingers, overlapping runs, something which Luis Enrique is big up on there. But certainly, I believe that's also going to be one of his downfalls. If you look at, one of the biggest names missing out there is Sergio Ramos. The moment I looked at the Spanish national team, I was like, okay, Sergio Ramos is a big exclusion. Now, what is going to be the way ahead for someone like a Sergio Ramos? He's a leadership. Now, if you look at the squad, right? He has named Carvajal. He's named Azpilicueta, who will be Carvajal's replacement in right back position. Eric Garcia from Barcelona. He's gone for Guillamon from Valencia. Then he's gone for Pau Torres, who's done a decent job with Villarreal. He's gone for Laporte. And Laporte has been a recent exclusion to the Spanish team as well since Euros. He got citizenship of Spain. He did a decent job in Euros. Jordi Alba and Jose Gaia. So very interesting names, especially when it comes to the Spanish national team, right? One thing which Luis Enrique has always believed in is ball playing defenders, as I mentioned. Hence, I believe and I have a strong feeling that he might start with someone like a Laporte and Eric Garcia, which ideally shouldn't be the case. But then Luis Enrique is someone who's very rigid. Luis Enrique is someone who certainly believes that no matter what happens, I will stick to my philosophy. I'll stick to my 11. That's where I personally think I have a difference of opinion where feel someone like a Power Torres should not be ignored in this team. He can be a very good left centre back in this team, and he's got the ability. He's done decently well. Just because you're going with Eric Garcia, which I think is going to be the probable starting 11, that shouldn't be the downfall of this team. You just look at this team, right? You've got plethora of talent. You got plethora of talent. Eric Garcia is yet to be developed into a centre back of that stature. Eric Garcia
Yeah.
is still young.
And that
You
was what
get
my
him.
question was going to be, because Pau Torres has a better profile, you would say, as a defender in comparison to Eric Garcia. Eric Garcia is still a younger player, and even in Barcelona, you don't see him being the starter yet. I mean, I would say he's there or about, but he hasn't put the kind of impact that you would say Pau Torres has done in his team, right? And that's why maybe you expect Pau Torres to be the player who could do a better job. He's also a better stopper.
Um, See, with power tours, you get a better version of Eric Garcia, I would say so. He's very good on the ball. He's very composed. You get a leader in him. At the same time, another skill which Power Torres has is also is very technical. His technical ability is one of the best out there in La Liga as well. I've been following Power Torres very closely because there were rumors that Power Torres will be coming to Barcelona. Since then, I've been like putting a scouting eye on him, like what's his profile, how is he going about it. And I was really, especially the last season, the development of Power Tours was something which I was very keen on. The way in which he was playing against the big boys in the Champions League, helping Villarreal in some of the crucial matches, he was there. You could sense that there is a world class ability in Power Torres to make it there. and that's where I personally feel Luis Enrique needs to broaden his vision at times a little bit more. His rigidity is great; it's very good, and you can't complain because he's got success with it. That's another issue with right. But
Yeah.
at the same time, is it good enough to make you win a World Cup? I seriously doubt that. So it may be good enough for you to go deep into a tournament. It may be good enough for you to maybe have a run which is possibly going to outclass a lot of teams. Now, if you look at this lineup, right, you have Eric Garcia, who's young, who's got it, who's very very what do I say? Who's got a potential to possibly achieve great things, but not yet. Look at Eric Garcia. I remember one of the games against France in the Nations League final, where this guy's mistake really cost Spain the Nations League when Mbappe ran past him, and especially when he plays for Barcelona, which I have been really feeling. I personally think, what, this guy has got a long way to go, especially Eric Garcia. He makes a lot of errors on the ball. There's an ability when it comes to his strength as well. He's technically decent, but when it comes to his ability and strength on the ball, he's not good enough. And height is also another concern. Where he gets, especially I remember in one of the games where Barcelona playing the Champions League, where he was getting beaten up. I mean, remember the Inter Milan game where they were playing in Camp Nou, where he was facing it tough to maybe go after a Dzeko. Physicality was an issue. Even to defend someone like Lautaro, he was finding it very difficult. So that's why I feel Eric Garcia might not be the right person for you in the starting 11. And maybe Pau Torres can be considered. And it won't be a bad option to go to Pau Torres. I think Pau Torres and Laporte did a decent job even in Euros towards the latter half, where initially this was the if this was the people. Yeah, I think that's the next thing which I was going to talk about as well. Very, very, very true. Sanju spot on there. But you know
Yeah, I
what?
mean, next point was going to be the same. Let's just start with that, right? I mean, what do you think of now Busquets' role? Busquets is someone who's been struggling in Barcelona as well. Players have been beating him for pace. He's, again, players have been running behind him. Not something that, and that's something that Barcelona has been struggling with. Is that something that you see with Spain struggling as well? Especially given the fact that, now, I mean, obviously, the expectation will be he will go back and defend and then be the player who will carry on the ball towards Koke and Petri. But if he struggles to get the ball, do you think that is going to put a hamper in the plans of Luis Enriquez?
Uh, yes, I would say so because number one, look at Busquets' season so far with Barcelona. Look at the two games you possibly had a tough time: Bayern Munich and Inter Milan. Inter Milan at home. I would say I'm talking Busquets in big games, and also in La Liga has been found out on multiple occasions, right? Especially against Real Madrid. In the El Clasico, yet again he was found out. And Busquets since 2017, for all the class Busquets has, for all the ability he makes things look so simple as game awareness, the way he's one notch ahead of everybody. I think it's time that Luis Enrique looks at Rodri. I am a City fan, and I know I'm not bringing my biases, but bro, I follow both Barca and City very closely, and I would say any day, any given day, you should be starting someone like a Rodri. The technical ability, the way he is being formed, the way he can actually be that control, the engine room, what you need for your team. He is very common. He's another version of Busquets in itself. He is possibly the next generation Busquets. And Sanju is right in mentioning that. It would be a crime if you don't start Rodri in that position because Rodri for City has been exemplary. The way he's been distributing the balls, the way he's been able to do, way he's been able to drop down in defensive transitions, the way he's been able to progress. I have not seen a player of his profile anywhere right now. You can say there are players who come very close to his profile, but right now, if you talk about the top three center defensive midfielders in the world, I think Rodri will be in the top two at least, because that's how he has come. And it'll be a shocker if Rodri doesn't find a place in the Spanish national team, because the kind of player profile he carries, the kind of ability he's got on the ball in terms of a distribution, when it comes to his interception skills, when it comes to his game awareness skills, will be very surprising if I don't say Rodri. And I think that's going to be, I would say beating on your own leg, or, digging your own graveyard, because Busquets is great. I'm not disrespecting Busquets, all the things what Busquets has done. And the bias which Luis Enrique has got towards Busquets as well. Even yesterday during his interview, he did mention that I'm waiting for Busquets to play another World Cup. For what? I really don't understand for what. You've gone with Koke and ignored someone like Canales. I don't understand. Koke has been awful form with Atletico Madrid, and he's gone there. But then the fact is, another thing which I possibly foresee happening is Koke might play in that position which we have mentioned, right? He might play as a right center midfielder alongside Pedri, because with Pedri and Gavi, one thing is that Gavi tends to lose the ball a lot more, and Koke doesn't do that. Koke is much more calm in it, and but the only issue with Koke is, can he go? Can he drop in between half spaces? Can he, go in between Alvaro Morata, link up with him? These are things which I have not seen a lot with Koke in the recent past. At least in these last couple of seasons with Atletico Madrid, I've not seen that a lot with Koke. But then Pedri is going to be a linchpin, right? He's going to be a creative midfielder. He's going to be the one who's going to make a lot of difference. I'd really like to see even Danny almost start. Maybe in my ideal 11, I will have Ansu Fati starting for this team, because Ansu Fati, just look at the squad, right? I think if you look at the
Yeah.
midfielders, you'll have a better idea who are the options he's got. He's gone with Soler. He's gone with Rodri. Llorente is another option who I think can start as a right midfielder in this team. He's got the pace. He's got good technical ability on the ball. But I don't see him as a starter. I see him only coming off the bench. And when it comes to right midfielder, another option you've got, or left midfielder, you've got maybe someone who can come in for Pedri at some time is Gavi, right? Or what would be my ideal 11 is my ideal three midfield is Rodri, Pedri, and Gavi. I think it gives them a lot more dynamic sense, because what you get with Pedri is a lot more creativity, and Gavi can push forward. Gavi can really go into the half spaces, press. He's very good in pressing, right? He can press the opposition center midfielders. He can press your opposition defenders as well, and that's where I think Spain should focus on having Gavi and Pedri start at the same time alongside Rodri, because they can play Gavi and Pedri when you have a Rodri behind you. And that really helps Luis Enrique's system in terms of the attacking progression.
Let's talk about the fullbacks now. Jordi Alba, Danny Carvajal, two champion players, you would say, but now and coming towards the later half of their career, how do you see them now? What kind of role are they going to be playing in this team, and how much of an importance are their role, especially on the flanks, for Spain going to be when it comes to Luis Enrique's system?
Yeah, I mean, I just agree to Michael Andrew as well. I mean, same over here, man. To be honest, it's going to be very surprising if Pussy starts, and the way in which Busquets have also been. He's in that part of his career where you can't blame him. Is just that the modern game has caught to him. Modern game is
Yeah.
too fast, too physical for him to really survive there. And you've seen that in the downfall of Barcelona in some of the bigger games. I would say one of the prime examples had to be the Roma game in 2017, where it all began, where you saw Busquets aging on the pitch. You literally saw it. It made Busquets look like, oh my god, this guy is getting older on the pitch. Liverpool game was another example where this guy looked absolutely clueless. And I can say more and more. Some of the biggest losses of Barcelona in Champions League, and this guy made some big errors. So for all the respect to the legend he has been, all the respect to the player he's been, but to be very honest, he has aged on the pitch. And one player who's really up there is Rodri, and that's what I personally think. I think going back, yeah, you were talking about the fullbacks, right, Jaren?
Yeah.
Um, yeah, yeah, very interesting that he has not gone with someone like a Grimaldo. Very, very surprising. Remember, Jordi Alba is barely the starter for Barcelona this season. They've gone for
Yeah.
Alonso and Balde, another bench warmer. Look at the number of bench warmers in this team, right? Aspilicueta has been poor this season, not the one of the best
Mhm.
there. I mean, I would say about same thing for Soler. Soler has barely got any game with PSG, barely starts for PSG. Same. I mean, Carvajal is world class, man. No doubt about Carvajal's ability. Last Euros he missed out because of an injury, but you have to have Carvajal. You saw even Nations League. that game against Portugal. It was a knockout game for both the teams. This guy crossing right into Williams, and Williams passing into Morata. That was a goal which happened. So this guy has got the moments of magic, like you saw in Champions League semi-final, where his crosses are literally deadly. If you're a good striker out there, you can pin it in, and you will be really waiting for him. He can push forward. He can play as a wing back in your team and this system. He's a very good ball player, and you can't match Carvajal's class in Spain. When it comes to right backs, there was no doubt. It should be Carvajal, but yeah, I still doubt Jordi Alba. But I really hope Jordi Alba proves me wrong, because he's still got some at least one good year in him, where he can really put up a performance. At least good 30 days of good performance with Spanish national team. It's not a problem.
Yeah, I mean, let's talk about Ansu Fati. Then there's already a comment by Sanju here that Ansu Fati doesn't deserve the spot. Abel, do you differ, or do you think Ansu Fati is the player who could be the player? I mean, along with Gavi and Pedri, could be the golden generation could be the onset of the next golden generation for Spain.
Yeah, I mean, to be honest, it'll be interesting to see whether Ansu Fati starts or not. Number one, because Ansu hasn't been starting for Barcelona, right? He's someone who's been coming off the bench for Barca as well. But at the same time, when you talk about dynamism in this team, you want a dynamic player, you want an X factor, a player who can come in and make an impact on the pitch. That is Ansu Fati. He's got that dynamic feature in him where he can cut in, where he can really test the fullbacks, and he has got the ability, right? He's a special talent. That's why he's been even given the number 10 for Barcelona. And from the moment he played for Spain, Luis Enrique always loved this guy. Luis Enrique has been always a huge fan of Ansu Fati. Hence, he always prefers Ansu Fati. That's what. When it comes to Luis Enrique, it's about the players who he likes, who he feels comfortable playing with. I'll be surprised if he starts, but at the same time, I have another side of me who also says that he should be starting, because of the fact that this guy can possibly come off the bench, or even to start a game where he can possibly give you a more dynamic feature, which a lot of players might not. Maybe that's where maybe a Williams also could be a contender on his position. And remember, Danny Olmo is someone who I really want to start. I would rather have Danny Olmo starting than Ferran Torres, because in this team, Danny Olmo fits perfectly. Danny Olmo is one of my favorite Spanish players to watch. I am a huge fan of Danny Olmo. His ability on the ball, his ability to really control the game, to cut into spaces, use half spaces so well, link up with the fullbacks. In Euros, especially, I thought he was the best player for Spain, alongside Pedri. So I'll be very interested. Daniel Olmo will, of course, play on the left, and I'd like to see Ansu start on the right, ideally, alongside Morata on the center forward. Unfortunately, that's the case.
Yeah, I mean, finally, I think before we get into the last few things, let's talk about the top three that we will be seeing. I mean, according to the probable 11 we have right here, we have. I mean, some of the players that we have is Alvaro Morata, Ferran Torres, and Pablo Sarabia. Where do you now? Do you think these three are probably, especially Alvaro Morata, who's had an on and off, on and off career, you would say, so as to speak. He's really never gone to that kind of potential that people saw in him. Do you think? I mean, we did see some glimpses of what he can do on the pitch in the Euros. Do you think this World Cup is something that probably could decide if he goes on with Spain team?
Um, See, once again, very shocking. But I'm not surprised he's included in the squad. So far, he's pinned in 5 goals. Not a bad season so far for him with Atletico in La Liga. Um been pretty decent even in Champions League in the couple of matches I've seen, but not been impactful enough. Euros, I was very surprised where he got a nod ahead of Gerard Moreno, who was coming off a dream season with Villarreal, where he was a top scorer of La Liga and he helped Villarreal to win the UEL as well. uh, One biggest exclusion. I was not. I wouldn't be surprised. I was pretty sure that he'll make it to the Spanish team, but at the same time, one person who I'm really surprised who was not made to the Spanish team is Borja Iglesias, who's been very good with Betis this season. He's pinned in 8 goals so far in the season. He's looked very good. He's been very threatening up front. I don't know what else does Borja have to do to make it to the Spanish team. He's gone for someone like a Sarabia, who I really don't even think is a good fit for this team, to be honest. You've got a Ferran who is also not a good fit. But the thing with Ferran is that his stats won't make won't tell you a story about the impact he's got. The runs he makes, is so effective. The ability he's got is an ambipedal player. He can shoot from the right foot and left foot at the same time, and he can also be used as a false nine at times. So the ability which Ferran has got is very rare to find in Spain. So I am not surprised Ferran will start. In an ideal 11 for me, Ferran should be your number 9, and he should be a false 9, and other two, maybe Ansu and Olmo, can play from the right and the left. That should be the ideal way to go. And I think Alvaro Morata, as much as he's good, and he did come out pretty well towards the latter half of Euros as well last year. But the fact is that, there are times where you really feel, is he even the right man? Because the number of chances Spanish midfielders might create and put it for him, he might just miss some of the sitters. And he's not really performed.
Hmm.
His ability, his pace, a lot of things can be questioned. He's a very good player when it's on the ball. He can hold the ball a little bit. He can do distributions for the wingers up front for them to cut in, and even for midfielders to run in through the half spaces. But I personally doubt Alvaro Morata's credentials to be starting for this team. Is he the best player? Maybe. I hope time proves me wrong, and Luis Enrique is once again right. And because that's the thing with Luis Enrique, right? He always proves everybody wrong with his philosophy and rigidity time and time again. He's someone who's big upon something which he believes in. He stays true to what he believes in. That's his philosophy. That's as simple as that. Might not be something which will please a lot of people, might not be something which will please the media and the world, but time and time again, he believes, he backs the player, hence they come good. Even especially in that game, where they were playing the Nations League knockout. Almost, it was not a knockout, but it was a must-win game for Portugal and Spain. This lad got to a right position, got the perfect ball from Williams, where Carvajal crossed it, and he put it in. And that's what I knew. Morata has done well when you back him to the tilt, and that's what Luis Enrique has been doing with him. And I hope, you know, he doesn't disappoint Luis Enrique once again, because they are in a very tough group. Remember, they're in a group which consists of Germany and Japan, who isn't
Yeah.
going to be easy pushovers at all, because Germany will be a tough opposition for the Spanish team, and Japan as well. We say, okay, they're an Asian team. Spanish giants are always going to be up there to challenge any Asian team. But then remember, Japan has got the ability to upset any team on the given day, because I think Japan is one of the best Asian teams, if not the best. And their technical ability with the ball, the way they play football, is just top notch. And that's why I think they are one of the very few Asian teams who can upset a European team or a South American team. That's the ability which the Japanese team has got. And I won't be surprised if Spain does not top the group. I really back them to finish out of the group and make it to the knockouts. But if something else happened other than that, I'll be very shocked, because this team has got a potential. This team has got a drive in them. This team has got a manager who believes in this squad. If anything, where they get knocked out very earlier on the tournament, I think that'll be a disaster, and that could be also because of their own mistakes.
I mean, it does seem like there are some problems that the Spain team will have to deal with, but I think that's pretty much it from the Spain team overall. The technical side of it and how well they will perform. Before we leave you, let's look at the last segment. Where we preview the kits of the teams. Let's bring them up on the screen. Able.
Yeah, yeah.
La Rojas, the team that is known to don the red. What do you think of this kit right here? Um, I mean, for me,
Right.
it does look like the home kit is pretty simple, pretty elegant, I would say. Um, yeah, I mean, it just looks that red and gold that you probably expect. I love the blue on the sides. Although for me, I think I would have really loved it if that was gold as well. I think
That's
that's
the classic Spanish team, right? Blue on the
yeah. I mean, I
side.
feel the blue really kind of could have been put somewhere else. I feel gold would have been a little better on that end. What do
Mhm.
you reckon? The home team, I mean, home kit.
I mean, it just looks basic, looks very classy once again. I
Yeah.
have no complaints with the kid. We'll give them another 7 on 10. The other was
But I love
impressive.
the away kit.
Yeah, awake it looks pretty sleek, to be honest. It looks
Yeah.
pretty nice. I think they'll don this a lot more, especially when they come up against maybe like Japan and all that, even if they go to knockouts. But I really
Yeah.
love the red kit as well. I always love the Spanish red kit. That's what they call La Roja. And Adidas has been very simplistic, this World Cup. Though they have done some really good designs, but with this team, they've gone a little simple. I thought Adidas kits have been one of the best in this tournament in terms of their design. at least in my opinion. And but when it comes to the Spanish national team, not bad, not bad. I would say just give them a 7 on 10. Pretty decent kit. I think very interesting to see how they're going to do on it in Qatar. I hope it's pretty cool for them to have fit it in because it's pretty hot out there in Qatar.
Yeah. Well, that's pretty much it from our end. Thank you so much for joining us, guys. We will be back soon with another team, and obviously, FIFA World Cup is going to be one of the most exciting editions, first ever happening in Middle East. Lots of things surrounding it, and obviously, the football is going to be very exciting. But thank you for joining us once again. Before we leave you,
Hmm.
remember to download
Maybe,
and play Boom
maybe
11.
before we
This
went, we can give a prediction as well if you want.
prediction, yeah. I
I think
mean,
this
we
team
have
is
the
making it to
predictor
the
feature as well.
quarterfinals, and this team is definitely making it
Absolutely.
to the quarterfinals, in my opinion. If things go
Mhm.
well, they can go to semifinals as well. So I don't see them winning the tournament, but
I think for
definitely
me,
top
I have a
16.
feeling, they'll. I think they'll probably end up. So here's what I think. I think they'll probably end up second in that group. I think Germany, on paper, right now has a better, has a much better fan base. I'm not fan base, rather. I got distracted by the comment. I'll come to you, Michael Andrew. They've got much better team on paper, Germany, and that's the reason why I think they'll end up topping. And Spanish team might have to face a tougher draw, which might really hamper their chances to get into the next round. But let's see how it goes for the Spanish national team. Able thoughts on the paid fans?
So I was just telling before this live to Jaren and one of my cousin as well. How do we sign up for that? Not
He
a
did
bad
not tell
option,
us.
right?
He just tagged us on a post.
Yeah,
So
so I was just yeah, I just tagged and I was like, I was just having a conversation with my cousin as well as to how we are gonna go to Qatar and be one of them because they're getting paid $10 a day, and I hope the news is false because it just makes that entire World Cup thing look like a mockery. To be honest, um, to
yeah.
be very fair, I just hope that's not the case. I'm seeing a lot of Malayalis who are passionate Brazil supporters and Malayalis who are passionate Argentina supporters. But I doubt if Malayalis are passionate Mexico supporters and Japan supporters as well. That's why my doubts started creeping in. And to be honest, yeah. I mean, there is something fishy. I don't know what it exactly is. I don't want to go much into it. I still have to find out. Maybe ask a person who's been part of the parade, like did you get paid or not, and how do we also sign up, because it's not a bad thing, uh
Yeah.
free food, $10 per day, 10 euros per day, but still it's not bad. And you can just go out there, sing songs, be in the parade. It's like a carnival. Get paid to be a fan. I mean,
I mean,
that's a dream thing,
who
right?
wouldn't want to be paid to watch the World Cup? That's all I'm gonna say. That whether it's true
Just
or
to be a
not, who
fan.
wouldn't?
I mean, who wouldn't ever? I mean, like, when was the last time you're saying that? Oh, I am getting paid because I'm a fan of a team. That is as cool as it gets. So it's
Yeah.
like a dream job. You can make close to what 20. You can make close to 2,000 to $200 or euros after the end
Here's the
of.
question, Abel. You are an Argentina fan. You are a English fan. Would you, if you're paid money, support Brazil or Australia or something of
No.
that level?
I'm,
There we go. That's the
I mean,
answer.
if you walk on parade and like lift flags, like random people who were doing it on the streets, like supporting Japan. But I really doubt. Okay, I've never seen a Malayali guy supporting Japan. And I was
Yeah.
shocked when I saw like Japanese fans
I
from
mean,
Kerala.
Ballus, for those of you who don't know, have much more competitive Brazil Argentina rivalry than the border of Argentina and
Yeah,
Brazil.
yeah. See, I'm from
Streets
Kerala,
lined
right?
up with two
I'm from
players from both the
Kerala and I
sides.
have seen it on my own streets in Kerala where it's just Brazil and Argentina. That is it. There is no other team. Even Portugal does not even come close to that. So it's been historical, right? It's not now. It's an historical thing which has been going generations after generation. Maybe the new generation is much more Portugal inclined, but still it's Argentina and Brazil dominant. I'm very surprised. I've not seen a Japanese fan or a Mexican fan in Kerala yet so far, and also English fans. I'm seeing a lot of English fans. So I was just listening to one of the podcasts. Like they were like, "Can you name two English players in the current squad?" And one of them went on to say David Beckham and Frank Lampard from the current squad. And I'm like, "Yeah, not bad." So that's where my doubts are creeping in. I really hope these are not paid fans. I really hope these are not paid fans.
Yeah, I mean that'll be really, really, what do you say, hurting the World Cup and the way it's organized
But
in
where are
a
all
lot of
the fans at? I don't see any fans also traveling in from other countries. So where are you all at? I mean, travel fast, man. I mean, missing the vibe already. So let's just end this.
I think there's also, a lot of
Controversy.
factors to it. Obviously, there's the controversy surrounding the World Cup. You
You know,
also
another
look
thing,
at
Jared, let's be
you all,
honest. This is the
yeah,
first World Cup in winter, and it's not vacation time in Europe or South America or
yeah,
anywhere else. Even from America, if you have to travel, it's winter time where people are still working. It's tough to
mm,
get vacations and travel. Like what do you do in June, July during peak summers, where you plan your vacation accordingly. I bet a lot of people would have planned a vacation considering the World Cup in mind, but can we get an influx of people like what we see in other World Cups? I highly doubt that, but at the same time, I really hope we get an influx so that the World Cup, the entire World Cup thing, lights up, because you need people coming from other countries for the World Cup to really, light up. You want the English fans. You don't want as much as I love the fans from Kerala playing the chenda is what they call it, but come on, man, you're not gonna play that for an English team, right? I mean, it just doesn't look cool, to be honest. Yeah, I mean, it's a very controversial thing. I think it's better that we addressed it if we address it in the right way, because there are a lot of things. It's not making the World Cup look good, to be very honest. It's just not making the
yeah.
World Cup look good because there's already a lot of controversy surrounding the World Cup. There's an entire documentary on Netflix. If you guys can watch it.
Of
Uh,
course.
and there is a lot of things around. Nobody liked this World Cup. For a lot of people, come from Europe, right? You're already seeing banners out in the stadium. I don't want to go into the human rights side of things or anything, but the fact is that this World Cup is already not getting this hype what people wanted. The players are also, many of them are injured. It's one of the possibly the worst scheduled World Cup. So a lot of things are not going right with the World Cup. I hope for all the things that has not gone well with the World Cup, I hope when it starts, everything is put behind. The focus should be only on the football and the game out there. No, not on
Mm,
the external factors.
yeah. All right. I mean, thank you so much, guys, again for joining us with that last thought. We'll be back again with a few other teams, previews of other teams as well. Thank you for joining us. Thank you, Abel. See you next time.
Yeah, sure. Bye bye.
Bye, guys.